Ace Podcast.
All right, man, this is it. Gotta be hard. No mercy. We're gonna like professionals, like Charles Bronson. We don't stop till the screaming starts, you dig?
Today's episode, Death Wish. Hey everybody, welcome to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. I am your host, Martin, and with me today is
Ryan.
From the Moon is a World.
The Moon is Dead World.net. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
We're trying something different today.
Yeah, guess I'm leading the way, unfortunately.
It was your suggestion.
Yeah. Was it?
No, it was.
Oh, okay.
It was.
Oh, all right. Today, we're moving on to a new series of movies. It's kind of a new thing that we've been doing is a series of films.
Yeah, doing a little bit of everything and then trying to do, like, sequels and stuff like that.
I kind of like that. I like covering kind of the whole...
It kind of keeps you in the same realm for a while. Like, if you're hopping, let's say we did, if you do one of the films and then, like, next year you do another one, it's not the same as if you, like, watch them back to back and do it like that.
Yeah, no, I like... Because it would suck just to cover Death Wish and then not, like, cover the rest of them.
Yeah. It's weird,
or
yeah.
Then, like, go back to them at a later date.
There's never going to be, like, another time where we're like, let's do Death Wish 3 this time. You know what I mean? It's just, like, a weird decision that you would want to pick, like, one of the sequels to do randomly.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to do them all at once.
Yeah, it's, I like it.
And, like, when would you ever... I'm legitimately asking this because I've never seen it, but when would you ever want to do, like, Death Wish 5 alone? Would you? Is that a thing? Like,
no.
Is it good enough where you'd be like,
you're gonna find that once we get through.
Is our episode gonna be like 20 minutes long?
Death Wish 5?
Yeah, for Death Wish 5. Like, nothing to see here.
That'd be great. That's just the entire podcast. Yeah. Nothing to see here. Finn.
Yeah.
Roll credits.
We're gonna play random clips from the other 4 films or something like that.
Well, yeah, we are doing a new series of films, and this time, this one's one of my suggestions.
Yeah.
Because we're both fans of 70s exploitation films and
action, crime,
vigilante films.
Mm-hmm.
Big thing back then. If you're not, if you don't know, and one of the big franchises, or at least when the 70s was around, one of the big films of the 70s to come out of this is Death Wish. Mm-hmm. What I would call a Charles Bronson masterpiece.
And the funny thing is, like you said, I'm a big fan of, like, crime and exploitation films from the 70s, but I've never seen it before. Never seen any of the Death Wish films.
And that's amazing, because this is one of the biggest ones. This is, like, one of the easily most well-known.
Well, the funny thing is that...
I would put it up there, like, it's, like, probably, like, after Taxi Driver. This is probably number 2, like, most well-known on the
I'll be honest with
vigilante
you,
film scale.
For, like, vigilante/exploitation films, I wouldn't say that I've seen a lot of the most well-known. And that's partially because I've seen a lot of these films because of reviews, for one thing, because I do it for the site. So in general, Death Wish and some of the other more popular films like Taxi Driver are not going to get some of the boutique releases.
Well, because they're going to come in the Criterion.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know about Death Wish, but
yeah. So they're not going to get, like, those boutique releases, so in general, if I hadn't seen them previously, then I probably haven't gone out of my way to see them now, not because I'm not interested or anything, but because I don't have the time to do that. Like with, the Dirty Harry films and stuff. I've only seen the first one.
Yeah, but, you don't need to see the...
Yeah.
I mean, you do, but at the same time you don't. But it's the same thing with Death Wish.
Yeah.
You really just need to see Death Wish.
And then you kind of know what to expect from
it. And then you don't really need this. No, you don't. Because
you don't.
Because the sequels come in the 80s, as you'll see, and they're very, very 80s.
Right. Well, this was the original Death Wish was 1974.
And it's very 70s.
Yeah, it's very 70s, which we'll get into probably a little bit later. But I'll let you lead.
But today we're covering Death Wish.
Yep.
Said that already. Stars Charles Bronson. And it's one of I'm not going to say it's like a top 10 film for me. It's one that I like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just like a memorable film. It's one of the first, I think it's probably the first like vigilante film I remember seeing as a kid. Because I do remember them used to play like on, I can't remember if it was AMC or Spike. It might have been Spike.
Could have been Spike. Seems like a Spike style film.
That they would play these movies on, and I'd catch them, and
I never recall Death Wish being on where I would have seen it.
But like I said, I can't remember exactly where I.
Do you remember like UPN used to have like the film of the day, or like it was like Saturday film?
I don't remember. I remember UPN only playing like Leprechaun when it like all the Leprechaun films.
No, you know what it was? It wasn't UPN, but it was the other like very local station.
TBS.
Nope.
They used to do dinner and a movie.
It was like
WB.
Nope, not WB, but it was one
WMHT.
No. This is like pre that stuff. I can't remember what exactly it was. It was some W, and it was a local style station, probably out of Schenectady or something like that. I remember them playing movies like this all the time as like a Saturday matinee special. I remember them playing RoboCop on there. And a lot of the movies like this, like 80s crime, 70s exploitation. So
they play UHF a lot. I remember one.
I think this was pre-UHF. Like
no, because UHF came out in the 80s. You know the Weird Al movie?
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, it wouldn't have been pre, but I don't think they played it.
Because there's I'm thinking of like a low channel, because UPN was channel 4. I remember that.
I actually think it was like channel 11. Like a weird...
Yeah, that's WB.
It wasn't at that. I don't think it was at that time. It doesn't really matter because anybody listening wouldn't have probably had it.
Unless they grew up in our area.
Yeah,
like,
right,
and remember their Time
and they
Warner.
Remember, they're like 11.
Yeah,
no, I know where that.
Remember their Time Warner.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't really matter, but I'm just saying if they had played Death Wish, I would imagine on that channel. But
it's not going to be on Turner Classic Movies, that's for sure.
No, that's totally... Even though they would probably play something like Dirty Harry on...
They have.
Yeah.
With TCM's cutoffs like the early 70s. I think like the latest film I ever seen them play was like Chinatown. And that's like once or twice.
Yeah.
They don't...
They're not a big fan of the more current fare.
Well, I mean, the whole point of TCM is...
Classic.
Yeah. But this point's, 80s is classic now.
Yeah. Yeah, we're working now... Death Wish, 1974, is like 40 years old.
Yeah. Worth than 40.
Yeah. 43
I get upset when I listen to like the classic rock station. I hear like fucking Smells Like Teen Spirit come on. And I'm like, oh, where'd the fucking years is going?
Classic.
Yeah. Grunge is now considered classic rock. My God. What a world we live in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so before we talk about the movie itself in a nice little in-depth conversation, and I'd like to see what, Ryan's general thoughts on the film are, we're going to talk about the beer we have today.
Actually, before we do that, though, I'm cutting in. I don't want to take over. I don't want to latch on to your starring role here or anything.
Oh.
Just more experienced at it.
Yeah.
No, but I just wanted to bring up the opening because that's going to be a little different for people who didn't listen to our last episode about Charles Bronson or who don't know the band Charles Bronson. So that opening, that crust punk / power violence ballad is actually
a ballad.
Yeah.
Ballad. I think that is a very loose use of the word ballad.
Yeah.
A ballad's usually a song story that goes like for fucking 5+ minutes, not 20 seconds. God damn.
That is true. But that opening is from a band called Charles Bronson. And it's very topical because Charles Bronson also stars in Death Wish. But I wanted to include it because I do like Charles Bronson a lot. Very big fan of their work, along with a lot of their peers like Spaz and some of the other crust punk bands from the 90s and actually early 2000s as well. So I wanted to include it. It's a fun little thing, hopefully, and it's kind of a look into like what I listen to on a daily basis. Hopefully anybody out there who's listening, Martin likes to make wrestling references that I don't even know anything about because I don't watch wrestling. So here's one of my references that he doesn't really know.
I mean, I like
about.
punk, but and I liked the 20 seconds of a song that it is. But I mean, I wouldn't like sit down and think to.
You wouldn't want to listen to like 16 of those.
No, because
back to back.
Because then it's just a medley. Then
yeah.
It's not a song. I mean, if I was like kickboxing, like or something.
Oh yeah. No, it does help with like running and stuff. Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, no, I'd stick to more like Bad Religion.
Yeah, that's more melodic and
I love
some hook to it
and harmonies. They're punk. Bad Religion is a punk band with harmonies. It's great.
Yeah.
Thank them.
That's right. All right, now on to you. You can do whatever you want with the rest of the show. I just wanted to bring that up so we didn't leave it hanging. Have people like, what the fuck was that in the beginning?
So. You gotta look it up. Look it up.
That's true, yeah.
You gotta educate yourself.
Do some research. You're on the internet.
Yeah.
Use the Google. Use the Googles.
You don't have to, use encyclopedias. Those fucking... God. Being a little off topic here, but just thinking about being in college, when you're in college, like, God, what a great time to...
Yeah, would have been horrible.
Yeah, if we had to be there when it was like Microsoft 95... like with word processor and then fucking having to go actually always go to the library, not just like sometimes use your laptop and look up online sources, but actually oh god no, that'd be fucking terrible.
Yep. Do the encyclopedia thing. People come to your door and sell you encyclopedias. I remember we had that happen once and we actually bought them, like children's encyclopedias. So yeah,
don't know when they're gonna come in handy.
That was a thing. I don't know how much I used them, but
I remember. I think we had like a encyclopedia set that was like a relatives. I just remember looking at them as a kid and be like, "Whoa!" But like, no, I can't imagine having fucking 28 different books.
Yeah,
they're like 500 pages each.
I mean, not only is it,
and it's just general reference too. Yeah. It's not like it's.
Not only is it annoying to have to go look at the encyclopedia, but the room space they take up, pretty much like an entire bookshelf, because you're like fucking.
Yeah, but look how think of, if you have that though. Think like when people come like, wow, what a learned man this is.
Yeah, that's right.
Or how smart he is.
Well, these were children's encyclopedias, so they were thinking that 7-year-old must be a genius. But yeah, I remember having those, and like I said, I actually tried to set out to read them. Like I'm gonna start with the A's and read through.
Oh, that would totally be me. I'd have to go, I would have to go in fucking alphabetical order. I wouldn't be like, I'm not like start at L and then move to W. No, that would kill me.
Do you think Death Wish was in there? In the children's encyclopedia?
Should be.
It should be.
They should have children's encyclopedias written by Charles Bronson.
Yeah, that's right.
How to grow a proper mustache.
He can't tell you.
How to wear a Speedo right.
Yeah, well, he can tell you that, yeah. Certainly.
But anywho, moving on to our beer of choice for today. Yep. And it's new. We have 2 new ones, actually.
That's right, yeah.
Both are by Sierra Nevada, Paul Rudd's favorite beer company.
Mm-hmm.
We're speaking for Paul on this one.
Hopefully that's his favorite.
Well,
I'm assuming
it would suck if he every movie he's in drinking a pale ale from them.
Maybe
he hates that. Instead, he's like, I just want a Bush Bavarian.
Maybe that's like Judd Apatow's favorite beer.
He's just
because I can think of like every time I've seen Paul Rudd drinking like a beer, it's in a Judd Apatow movie or like a Judd Apatow produced movie. So maybe that's Judd's favorite beer, and he's like, "Paul, you're drinking this." I was like, "I don't really, Sierra Nevada is hoppy. I'm not really a big fan." Like, no, Paul, you're drinking this.
I want a Bush Bavarian.
It'd be kind of disappointing.
Maybe that's how Judd pays him. He pays his actors in beer. Like
I feel like I would be disappointed if I found out that Paul Rudd isn't really a fan of Sierra Nevada. Because I feel like close to him. Yeah, I
like
feel
we have
close
something in common. Like though Sierra, as we discuss these 2 beers, Sierra Nevada is kind of getting on my shit list now of like beer makers.
Yeah, take it away, whatever
So. Ryan was telling me about how he bought Sierra Nevada's new 4-way IPA pack. Usually every year, usually in between winter and spring, they'll come out with a 4-way IPA pack. It'll just be a random pack of 4 different IPAs. It'll always include the Torpedo IPA.
Yeah, that's kind of their thing.
Sometimes
they have like the Ruthless Rye.
Man, I do love that.
That is a good one.
But but this year they crammed in there their Torpedo, a Peach IPA, which we'll discuss, a Black IPA, and I don't remember the third one. I mean the fourth one.
The Golden.
Oh, the Golden's in there?
The Golden. No, I'm sorry. It's like a wheat IPA, like a Bavarian, was it?
I don't remember. I didn't pay attention.
It was something like that, which we haven't actually gotten to because we only tried one of those in the pack, which we've had the Torpedo before, so that doesn't really count. But the other three, I feel like it was something like that. It was like a Bavarian IPA or something like that, like a little bit different from what they normally do.
Well, but anywho, you got that pack. So today, when I was looking for a beer to get too, I was thinking about getting their 12-pack of their Golden IPA because that's their beer camp IPA that's out.
Yeah,
and
2017 beer camp that they normally do like in the spring months.
They just released hey, this is something we made at beer camp, and here you go.
Yep.
And so I thought about getting it, but then I saw at the very last moment before I was about to check out that the store that I was at had a 12-pack of Sierra Nevada's Sidecar Orange Pale Ale. And I love oranges, and I love pale ales.
Yep.
So the idea of combining the citrusiness of a orange and the pale ale of Sierra Nevada sounds great because we've talked about on here already. We've talked about New Belgium's Citradelic IPA pale ale, which we like, which is a tangerine IPA.
Yep.
And then Saranac, which we talked about as well, has a clementine pale ale, and we like that a lot too. There's not really much difference between tangerines, clementines, and oranges. The difference is just certain levels of sweetness and the size of the damn things.
Yeah.
I'm no botanist, but...
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, actually eating them, yeah, tangerines have a distinct, taste to them. But in terms of adding them to a beer, really, it's just the citrus level of it. Yeah.
To be honest with you, if I tried them all, I'd be like, okay, maybe one's a little bit... Yeah. Tangerines are, more bitter. Clementines are smaller. A little bit sweeter.
Yeah. I mean, with, clementines, I just like clementines because they're sweet and juicy and easy to peel. Yeah. And no seeds. That's the main draw of a clementine. But taste difference? Slight.
Yeah. So just the idea of an orange pale ale sounds great. Because I do love Sierra Nevada's pale ale, though I do think... compared to a lot of pale ales, it is on the hoppier side, but that's your shtick.
Yeah.
So I got it, and as we're watching Death Wish, we first started off with the orange Sidecar Pale Ale. And it is bland.
Yeah, I mean...
This is a great disappointment. At least to me.
I've never heard of the Sidecar before. It doesn't really seem like that's specifically a new thing to Sierra Nevada. It's a new thing for us because I've never really seen it around before.
Neither have I. And I made sure when I bought it too. They had printed on the side of the thing that it was bottled in December.
Yeah. So it's good for
now. So it's new. So I was making sure, okay, this wasn't something random that they had stored,
Yeah.
Oh shit, we've had this for 4 years. Let's move it out front and hope some dumbass like me thinks hey, look, a new beer, I'll get that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest disappointment with this orange pale ale is that it tastes very similar to Sierra Nevada's regular pale ale, which, as we've said before, is basically an IPA. It's very hoppy, very heavy hop presence, and I think in this case, the hop presence overpowers the orange.
And now that I'm drinking a little bit more, I do notice the orange a bit more because it's more it's a bitter orange, and I think. You don't get an orange, you get barely an orange sweetness at the end, but you get that bit, a bitter orangeness mixed with the hops, but just so it doesn't really I don't think it works, because you're getting the hop bitterness and then the bitterness from an orange.
I think that's...
And I think it's just weird, you'd expect a hoppiness and then kind of a sweetness that you would get from an orange. Imagine if you drank an IPA and then kind of sucked on a orange popsicle to balance it out.
I think that's kind of where the clementine and the tangerine work a little bit more than just a generic orange flavor, is because they are a bit sweeter and you have the dynamic going on of like, oh, I can really taste the sweetness of the clementine or the tangerine in contrast to like the hoppy bitterness. In this orange pale,
both of them, New Belgium's and Saranac, has a great balance between the two. Like, they pair the fruit and the pale ale perfectly. I think it's
there's not really like a contrast. I mean, I will agree with you. On the really opening like moments of when it's on your palate, I do taste some of the orange. It's very subtle, and no one would complain about Sierra Nevada like overly using fruit in their beer.
No.
Like there's not, and IPAs in general are somewhat citrusy, but in this case, it's so it's not really even noticeable that this is very, a different type of citrus than a regular pale ale.
And it's not to say it's a bad beer.
No.
Because it's not.
Yeah.
Because, again, their pale ale is a very good pale ale.
Mm-hmm.
But what you expect, it's definitely a disappointment.
Yeah.
And
we'll just say that you really have to go looking for that orange flavor. If you're drinking it quickly and you're not really, I don't know.
We drink it cold, and we drink it like warmed up a bit and chilled, and you still can't like.
I actually think it's a little bit better warmed up a little bit because I think it comes out. It's a little bit more pronounced with the orange flavor than when it was still colder.
You're still looking.
Yeah, I have to look for it. I really do have to look for it. I think it's the combination of like there's a lot of hoppy flavors in their pale ale in particular anyway, and it's just getting lost in there. And I mean, it's the same thing of the next beer that we're going to talk about, which is their peach IPA, which is included in the 4-way IPA pack. And we kind of wanted to like do just 2 because it's hard to talk about multiples, especially IPAs, in like one session.
Yeah, because by the third one, your palate's going to give up. It's like, it's an IPA.
Yeah.
I can't really discern that much different because it's an IPA, hoppy, piney.
I think the big thing with the peach IPA is that as an IPA, there's not a huge amount of difference between this and the pale ale, except for it may be even a little bit less bitter than the pale ale itself.
I don't think it's that bitter at all.
No.
And this is where I'm like becoming really disappointed too, because out of the 4 in that pack that you had, I really wanted to try the peach IPA because I think it could be a very interesting and a very good mix, and it's not. The peach IPA more so than the Sidecar. The peach IPA, you get absolutely to like no peach taste whatsoever. It's so faint, so subtle. It's just ridiculous. Like maybe I have a deaf palate and I just can't hear the peach ringing out. But I don't. And it's like drinking like a slightly watered down version of their pale ale because it's not as hoppy as this Sidecar pale ale and their normal pale ale. And so to have the peach not be pronounced and you get a really crisp, sweet peachness from it, peach taste to it, it's not good.
I mean, I think that probably what's happening in this beer is that the peach sweetness is undercutting the hoppy bitterness of the IPA. So you're not tasting the peach, but you're getting the effects of what the peach is doing within the beer itself, as in that now even the IPA is muted. But at the same time, if they're going to do that, I would rather there be a prominent peach flavor.
You'd think their brewers would be tasting it, and again, maybe they got. Sure, they probably got more sophisticated palates than me, but and you too. But I mean,
one would think because,
but it's their living to like discern through. But at the same time, it's like if I just don't get it. I don't, and this is where like Sierra Nevada is becoming on my shit list because it's like they're doing what Sam Adams does. They're taking the same fucking thing and repackaging it with something slightly different to kind of barely change the formula and like calling it, hey, it's new, it's seasonal, instead of, actually doing new things or just sticking to what they do best.
Yeah, I mean, with peach, I'm not a big fan of peach. I like it well enough. I'll drink it. I will eat peaches occasionally, but I would say that I'm a pretty good discerner of peach flavor because of that.
It's very distinct, though.
Yeah,
it's not like peach isn't a distinct.
It's true. Yeah,
it's a very distinct sweetness.
And I think I gotta say that I tried really hard to get the peach flavor in this. Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
You're a two sneezer like me.
Yeah, well, if you're not, go to hell.
I tried really hard to get the peach flavor.
You were wafting it.
I was
like it was scotch. You were sitting there like...
And not only that, but what I also did was, I tried to... I don't know. I just tried to, sit there and leave it on the palate and see if maybe anything else would come through. And at times, I got the faintest hint of, wait, was that peach flavor? But when you have to question whether it was peach flavor or just, the citruses of the hop itself, I just feel like they really missed out on adding peach flavor to this. They call it a fruit and hop ale. It's barely fruity. It's barely fruity.
It's not a pale. It's not an IPA. It's a pale ale.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, I saw because we use Untapped and we check in with Untapped to a lot of beers. I saw a lot of people who were saying, this is a good beer, but it's not particularly peachy.
It's just like a normal IPA.
Yeah,
it's maybe
standard,
not quite a session IPA, but it's not quite an IPA. It's in between there, because again, it's not as bitter, and it's more sessionable than an IPA, but it's not like a true session IPA where it's a light version of an IPA. You still get the hops, but at the same time, you can this is great. This is easy. It's going down now. So it's a disappointment. I mean, I would encourage people to go out and try both these packs. And to see if if it appeals to you, and try it and see, if if maybe you're getting something that we're not.
Yeah.
It's not going to discourage me from buying Sierra Nevada. But at the same time, it's like you're on the list now.
Yeah.
You're on my watch list. It's like Sam Adams and Guinness for doing stupid shit.
Well, that's the thing too, is that they have the new Golden IPA out too, and I don't really know what could be the difference. What's going to distinguish that one? And I'm hoping that the other two that are in this pack at least are prominent and
I feel like
different.
the black IPA is just going to be a very bland black IPA.
Could be.
I feel like it's just going to be that's... And I don't like black IPAs that much to begin with. I don't think as a style, I don't think it's a good style. It just doesn't work for me. I don't think combining a dark malt to an IPA to try to give it a more of a porter, it just doesn't work. Nowhere near as good as a white IPA is genius.
Yeah.
Which I think the Sidecar Pale Ales, that's what it should be shooting for. Like a white IPA, but it's not quite as hoppy as an IPA, so it's more of a pale ale. Because that's essentially what it is. Because a white IPA is a IPA with, orange citrus peel and, and wheat ale elements too.
Yeah.
But, what do I know? I'm not a brewmaster.
That's true. That's true. We're not.
I'm just somebody who likes to drink.
That's right.
And you too.
Yeah. And to sum up, I think we're both a little disappointed with both of these beers.
Yeah.
They could be a little bit better.
So, Death Wish.
Yeah, Death Wish. Let's talk about it.
What'd you think?
Could start off with that, huh?
Yeah.
Pointed conversation about it. I thought that it was pretty good. Coming from a standpoint of seeing quite a few exploitation and blaxploitation films, watching this now, I don't think it's probably the best one that I've seen. Probably doesn't rank in the top of those that category, really. I think it's a good film. I think it's fun to watch, which in I'll say fun to watch most of the time. One of my biggest complaints with it, though, is probably it's relatively slow pacing. It's kind of interesting how the story progresses, because it almost feels like nothing is happening for a lot of the movie. Not that it's not happening, but that there's really not much of a story to it. It's more so like there's no. Okay, so one would think from the opening of the film with the rape of Charles Bronson, Paul Kersey's daughter, that in the death of his wife, that he would be out for revenge on the three people who did it, on the three criminals who broke into his house and did that act. But and that's kind of what I felt was Death Wish's main plot, was that he actually, he started as a vigilante, but he really wanted to get revenge on those people that did that to his family. But as Death Wish progresses, there's not really so much the act of vengeance against those three people as there is a kind of stereotyping of what criminals are and like crime within New York City. And so there's not much of a what you would call a strict plot, in the sense that there's like Kersey goes from this to this to this. It's more so like a fluid motion.
And it's good that you kind of summed it up like that, because for those of you who don't know, Death Wish is a film that's essentially about Charles Bronson's character, Paul Kersey, who is just your typical run-of-the-mill blue-collar architect who lives in New York City in the 70s. And in case you didn't know, New York City in the 70s was quite the shithole, as many 70s films like to point out.
Yeah.
That's plagued with crime and violence. And then one day, for no reason whatsoever, because these kids just wanted to have a good time and beat the living hell out of people, came to his house when he wasn't there and beat and killed his wife and beat and raped his daughter. And now he's trying to cope with it. And then it goes from his coping to dealing with the problem at hand in the city with mugging. And that's it.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's a very loose plot, but I think it works well because I think for him to specifically try to target the three thugs that came in and beat and killed his wife and raped his daughter. I mean, I don't think you necessarily need that for the plot to overall work, because it becomes before that even happens to his family, him and his coworkers are talking about the crime and in New York City and how it's terrible and all the muggings and how it's awful, and he just came back from vacation in Hawaii with his wife and like, oh, that must have been so much better than this shithole. And so when that's happened, he's seeing that happen and it's happening all around. Then it happens to him. It doesn't necessarily, for me, he doesn't have to go out and then try to act vengeance. It's not vengeance that's fueling his vigilantism. He sees that the crime in the city is terrible. The police aren't doing anything about it. So he's taking it into his own hands. Because he suffered it firsthand.
Yeah.
So it's slight vengeance in the fact that he's experienced it, so he's doling out death wishes to those who are thugs, but at the same time, it's more the whole idea of just vigilantism in general, that he wants to clean up the mess that the cops can't clean up.
Yeah.
Cops can't just go and shoot, suspected muggers and criminals. That's just not how our justice system works, nor should it be how it works. But a lot of people think it should.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that it doesn't necessarily need him to go out and get vengeance on the three people that did that to his family, but at the same time, one would kind of almost expect that he would be looking for it.
But he doesn't know. But again,
right? Yeah, he doesn't know who it was. No, that's true.
And they point that out clearly because he goes to the police station several times and asks like, "Do you have any information?" They're like, the cops are like, "We ain't gonna lie to you. We don't know anything." Yeah. And the chances of us ever catching them, slim to none.
But I think like the big thing that bothered me, it doesn't really bother me, but it's just that there's like it's a very languid plot, is that I would, even though he is out to like solve the crime problem as a vigilante and basically he's taking care of the trash on the streets that could have been those people that murdered his wife and raped his daughter. There's not really much of a focus on that aspect of it being like this happened to him and his family after that opening act. Like there's no real once like his wife is dead, which is the news is delivered to him in probably the worst way possible. As in like an aside from a doctor.
The most tone deaf doctor, like coming off of like 4 straight shifts of working and like when when Charles Bronson's son-in-law is asking how his wife's doing, and they say, "Oh, she's fine. She'll live." And then Charles Bronson's like, "Oh, I'm Paul Kersey. How's my wife doing?" He's like, "Oh, she's dead."
Yeah,
and that's it.
It's kind it's like an aside that it is really unsettling because he just kind of
drops it
bomb. Not like, well, let me come into my office. Let's speak in private.
Well, to be fair,
none of that.
To be fair, it's the 70s. It's like,
true.
Hey man, your wife's dead. You're a bachelor.
Yeah, congratulations, your wife's dead.
You get to go pound some new mounds.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, so that that's surprising. But it's not really brought up post death / once his daughter's committed to the nuns mental hospital. That's it.
No. Sanatorium.
Sanatorium.
When that word was still being used before Geraldo Rivera went and destroyed,
Yeah.
If you remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sanitarium.
I actually love that they use that. It's like, they're sending her to where they house tuberculosis patients.
I mean, I like. I don't like, but I think it's funny that to solve this problem, this clearly, the psychosis that his daughter is going through is to send her off to a nunnery and forget about her. It's out of sight, out of mind. No big deal. Let's just send her off. She'll be fine.
I'll give the film credit for even tackling that, though.
Yeah, a little bit.
Because at the time, I mean...
Yeah.
No, not even just a little bit. Again, like, you gotta think in the context of the time period. 5 years ago, you had fucking The Night of the Living Dead and Barbara after her brother turns into... No. She's just a woman in comatose. Her frail mind can't handle what's going on.
Catatonic, yeah.
She's catatonic now. Goodbye.
No, I know.
It's the Ben show now. Where they're actually trying to explain it. They're like why is she she's sleeping and she's acting weird, and they're actually trying to explain, she's going to see doctors. They're saying she doesn't know how to handle it, because it's a traumatic. She's traumatized, so she's catatonic. She's going through all these things, but. So I'll give the film credit because it's actually trying to tackle hey, getting raped. It's not like you're gonna be like, I'll be over that. Because I joked with you when before they send her to the doctors and stuff, she's lying in bed and she's traumatized. She wakes up in her sleep shouting. I was like, yeah, it's the 70s. I'm not surprised her husband's like, hey, I know you just got raped a week ago, but when are we gonna get back to to me?
Yeah. I think you referred to it as Pound Town. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be
make light of the situation.
Be offensive,
obviously.
but at the same time, I can totally
wouldn't be unexpected at that.
No,
time.
It wouldn't be at all. I'd be like, oh, you'll get over it.
Yeah.
So some other guy grabbed your boob. I do that all the time. I mean, come on, so when can I do that again?
Yeah.
So I'll give the film credit for actually tackling.
Well, I do give it credit. I will give it credit for at least bringing up those things, catatonia, post-traumatic stress disorder, things like that. But at the same time, this is the equivalent of having a character who you don't want to deal with, so you just put him away and then not dealing with him ever again.
But at the same time, what would you do with her? Like, if she's not catatonic from all this, what are you doing? Like, I don't expect, because again, it's a vigilante exploitation. I don't expect her to be like, well, I've gotten over it, and Dad, why don't you get over it? Because,
Well, I don't.
It's not going to be subversive at that level.
I don't think that the film uses that as an inciting
motivation
for him as much as it should, as much as it really should use it.
No, you're right. They don't.
I think that's probably one of my biggest issues.
He blames his son-in-law.
Yeah.
After she's still not getting better from seeing the doctors, and he's like, "You're not trying hard enough."
Yeah.
And
I'm just saying, it is and it isn't, but it's not a vengeance film per se, but it is in some scenarios. But I just think that probably they could have done it a little bit better within that scope, especially spending that much time on it at the beginning of the film. But at the same time, I totally get where you're coming from, and where the film is coming from, is that his motivation really is not to find those people that did this to his family, but just to make sure that it doesn't happen to other people. That it doesn't, he can...
And it's cathartic to him.
Yeah, he has the ability to make sure that doesn't happen to other people on subways or in the city getting mugged.
In the streets.
On the streets. So, in that sense, yeah. That is really the motivation for his character. And I'm being a little unfair because there is a plot to this film, and it certainly does take a lot of inspiration from things like westerns, spaghetti westerns. There's even a whole scene where he watches a western play out in Tucson, Arizona,
which is great too, because this film is coming out right when westerns are.
Yeah,
they're
right when
they're almost dead. They're right on their deathbed. So
especially even spaghetti westerns still maybe a little bit, but not a whole lot like in the late 60s. Not so much anymore. So this is taking inspiration from those and then transferring it to the cities, because westerns are very rural, and now we're adding a cityscape to the modern western.
And as you said, when we go to Tucson, which by God, just looking at 70s Tucson, Arizona, it looks like it's not a city, it's just the Podunk Boonies.
Yeah.
As you said, and in the background shooting your newest spaghetti western.
Yeah.
Because it literally looks like, you can see a horse clopping in the background.
A man drives a goddamn station wagon with 2 horns on it, on its trunk, or on the hood of the car, and on the top of the car.
Yeah.
There's 2 sets of horns on it.
It's so cheesy, it's great.
Yeah, it is. I think that they're kind of making fun of Arizona, a little bit at least. But I don't know. It's a funny thing, but it definitely does make sense within the film's world, because that part of the film is really him seeing how kind of the other half lives. He lives in a sort of peaceful bubble, even though he lives in one of the most violent cities in America at the time. He lives in a peaceful bubble. He doesn't do anything about it. And he realizes that the cops don't really do anything about it too. And actually one scene where right after his wife's funeral, he asks the cop how they're coming with the case, and the cop basically says, that's just how it is in New York City. So it's pretty much from a police officer's standpoint, it's pretty much normal.
Well, but if you
happens.
Well, yeah, but if you think about it, again, in the 70s too, just the level of technology too.
True.
If somebody randomly breaks into your house, rapes and beats your wife, kills them, and then your daughter who's left comatose can't give any description on who the people are, you're boned.
Yeah.
There's no other witnesses. No, you're boned.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not giving the cops and the too much shit on this one, because it's look, there's not they're. They can do some fingerprint, but again, it's not like today where you got so much more technology to we could see when the last semen sample was dropped here. And
I think that Death Wish though it is kind of an indictment of police, in that Not so much in this case, because yeah, you're right. They don't really have that much to go on, except that somebody likes to graffiti a lot. They know of any random graffitiers, but in other cases they are very, they're reluctant to step into any crime cases. You don't see any cops on the street at night on the most, the known streets that are crime and gang filled. I just think that Death Wish does attempt to hold, them police accountable for some of the crime that goes on in 1970s New York City. Although at the same time, Death Wish is like a hyper exaggerated version of New York City. Like
I'd like to think it is.
I would like to think so. Obviously, I
don't know.
Was not born in the 70s. I didn't and don't live in New York City. Been in New York City. Definitely know that it's a lot cleaner, not so dingy, a lot less crime filled than it used to be, especially from firsthand accounts of it. But yeah, in the 1970s, I don't really know exactly what it was like.
I know. Again, I from what I've heard from just other media and news sources, just what a hellhole it used to be.
It was a shitty place.
But at the same time, I don't. Man. Then again, as I've told you before, other some of our friends, even if it was the shittiest place, I still wouldn't be scared to walk around because I'm not gonna live my life in fear of someone's gonna mug me for money. Here's my money, take it, go. Have a nice day.
Well, I think the reason I say hyper exaggerated in this film is because Charles Bronson, even before he adopts his vigilanteism, is mugged twice in 2 nights by a guy. And like I said, he's not even looking for the trouble at this point. This is just him walking down the street and getting mugged.
And just kind of looking to see what's going on.
And I mean, that just seems exaggerated. It seems exaggerated that you can't go to the grocery store and buy $2 worth of groceries without getting on the subway and being mugged by attackers who are thinking you're fucking rich because you were able to buy a couple bags of pasta and...
Well, as I told you, that does make sense because everybody in this film is fucking anemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all, their food pyramid diet, according to this film, was nothing but heroin.
Yeah.
It's just smack. Which, yeah, no, we'll talk when we get to the actors. We'll talk about it, but yeah, no. So and as I was telling you, and I made you watch a clip of the great '80s comedy Hollywood Shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
And the bit about black acting school, because man, ain't that ever true in this film?
Exactly.
Just about most of about 70% of the muggers are black in this, and they're all acting like what you'd stereotypically expect from a '70s film. They're like, "Jive turkey, motherfucker, give me your money."
Yeah,
and
it's almost like because we've covered. Have we covered any blaxploitation? No. We haven't.
No.
But it is
we came close.
Almost like the opposite of a blaxploitation film in that this is not very unusual, but you have primarily white cast and there's a lot of black muggers, whereas in blaxploitation a lot of the villains in those films are white people. Who are either police officers or very high up in government official ranks, which is probably even more so true than what you get in a film like Death Wish, which does project some of its conservative leanings onto the film itself.
Well, as I told you, this is as I said, it's been 40 plus years since this film came out. It's still a perfect critique of
society
today. Today, just because
I think when you say critique, though, Death Wish isn't particularly critiquing society.
No, it's not. From if you're looking at it at a more intellectual view, you could say how
it's a representation of society.
Yeah, just the things again in this film you have people muggers out of control in the city. How does Paul Kersey deal with this? He takes matters into his own hands and shoots them.
Yeah.
What would most people today recommend?
Yeah.
When with the things going on today, with somebody got with getting slightly political here with what happened in Florida the other day the shooting at the airport. What's some people's answer to that? We need guns at the airport.
Yeah.
No.
A normal citizen, if they saw that happen and they had a gun, it could have been easily stopped if they had just shot that guy.
No, I don't care how good I don't care if I knew you were a great shot. I know you're not. But if you had a gun, like a licensed pistol permit to carry a gun, I knew you were a good shot, and if I was at the airport, I'd still say, no, you don't need a fucking gun there.
Yeah.
I don't need you to be the one to go fucking Rambo and I saved the day. Yeah. I shot that guy. It's idiotic.
You can see the semblance of that in Death Wish.
And it's the same thing in Death Wish. Because the whole idea behind Death Wish is, well, there's a vigilante killer and the cops are trying to catch him because they have to, because he's a killer. They have to catch him. That's the cops are kind of begrudgingly tracking him down because they don't really want to. Because, like, hey, crime's kind of going down after this guy.
But at the same time, you do have that faction of the police force who are like, no, we have to bring this to a stop because we can't have any other asshole out there just randomly, willy-nilly saying, yeah, that guy sucks. Yeah, I don't like him. I'm going to shoot him.
Yeah, but at the same time, the film makes a point at, like, the end, like, when it's like, when they're talking about, like, Paul Kersey's, like, last killing, they're like, and, it's inspired other people to actually, take up arms against, other muggings, and, like, you see an old black lady saying, oh, yeah, I got my broom and beat the shit out of that motherfucker, and then, like, oh, it's one, we were at a job site, and this guy, at a fucking construction site, and this guy's getting mugged, and the whole construction team chases him down like it's the Beatles' Hard Day's Night, beats the living hell out of him, breaks both his arms, his chin, and some ribs, and they're like, yeah, we didn't find any evidence, like, what happened? They all just said, like, oh, he must have tripped and fell, that's how he broke all his bones, what are you gonna do about him?
I mean, I think that...
So, they're essentially saying, what they're saying is, stick up for yourself,
Yeah.
Do that, and it's...
I mean, I think Death Wish does want it both ways. It doesn't work all the time, but I mean, I think that it does want to say that, hey, vigilantism... It doesn't always work because you're going to have those people who don't make good decisions in their, in their everyday life when they're I think they use the word greasy, but they do. They use the word greasy. But the sentiment is that you're going to have people who make bad decisions about who is not a good person, about who's a criminal. And you can't have that especially in an overpopulated city like New York City. At the same time, though, they do want to say that, hey, you should actually stick up for yourself in some way within, when you're being mugged.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean everybody needs to have a fucking gun.
No, it doesn't. Which is why I do appreciate that in those scenarios, at least, the construction crew does beat the shit out of that dude, but at least it's not with a gun. And the black lady, at least she fends off muggers with her hairpin. Yeah. That's a little bit different than saying, whip out your gun and fucking point it at them. Put it at their head and threaten that you're going to shoot them in the head if they don't stop mugging you. I think that's a little bit different than what we have now, which, I mean, it's not that different, but it is a little bit different where we have now, like, oh yeah, everybody should carry a gun because they'd be a lot safer that way. Like, now you really don't know who the fucking bad guy is.
Yeah, there's people I know who have pistol permits. I'm like, I wish you did not.
Yeah, exactly. But it's unfortunate that we haven't really progressed that much further from Death Wish.
Well, like I said, this film again, 40 years old, and it's like this is still
there's a
like hammering all the like just like something like. And it's very, like, offhand, like, racial topics in this, too. Like, you have, like, one guy saying, like, oh, they're targeting black people. And one guy's like, well, they're all criminals anyway. Yeah. It's all them that's doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like...
That's the sentiment, yeah.
That's still going on. That's 40 years later, that's still a very, like, well, they're...
In the 70s, more common thinking. Not that it was okay in the 70s either, but certainly a lot more common as in thought. In 2017, shouldn't be happening. But this film, like I said, You could call it Utes, the movie, because it's a movie that is entirely about
Older.
and focused on fear of outsiders, fear of strangers, fear of anything different. Because all of the movie's villains are young people.
Not specifically black, cause
Not specifically, no. There's a lot of white criminals in here, but they are mostly young. They are weird, different. Like they stand out from a crowd. Like they're either very like almost hippie-ish,
boisterous, wearing ridiculous like clothing,
bandanas,
loud, obnoxious being the key word.
Sexually explicit or like open,
which is funny because again, going back to like the whole 40-year difference thing, it's just the same thing, goddamn thing. So it's like the generation of the 50s judging like these baby boomers like, oh, they're a bunch of dangerous assholes.
Yeah,
same thing going on, like, oh, these special snowflake millennials getting their fucking feel. I literally saw like on Facebook today, like somebody said something like fucking goddamn faggot libtards. And someone's like, no, that's actually stupid. So I'm like, your butt hurts, snowflake. It's like, no, they just said something and you're not saying,
yeah.
Well, and it's just,
remember, we talked about that they're doing a Death Wish remake with Bruce Willis. And
probably gonna be the curmudgeon fucking.
Exactly. We thought it was like it's strange to do a remake. At the same time, though, it totally makes sense seeing what this film is. Because you can do the exact same themes. You barely need to change anything about this film in order to do a remake. Probably almost could do a script remake of same script.
Like the Vince Vaughn Psycho. Shot for shot remake.
The only thing you gotta change is the monetary values. You can't have $217 in groceries.
It'd be $217.
Yeah, $217 in groceries. Or $2 billion investment instead of a $2 million. But I think you could do pretty much the same script and everything for a remake and get away with it now. And that's pretty sad. It's pretty sad for our state now. But in terms of watching this film now and looking back on it in the 70s, you can absolutely put it in that time period and understand where it was coming from historically.
Yeah, because
like you said, it's a Nixon era.
Well, I mean, Nixon's not like been out or on the way out, but it's no, you're right. Because again, like Dirty Harry, the whole like this like things aren't getting done. I'm going take matters into my own hands, and it's still prevalent today with how people think.
Yep.
You like see people getting tried for like crimes, and people are like, hang him, kill him, all right. It's like he hasn't gone through the trial yet. The whole point of the judicial system in our country, for most people who claim to be patriots, is this idea that it's supposed to be, you're supposed to get a quick trial, like so you get to it quickly, but it's supposed to be slow moving, so everything gets observed to make sure that if you are guilty, you are then prosecuted. If you're not, then But then so many people jump on the, guilty automatically. I like I said, I haven't watched it. It's been a year since I've watched this film last. And I said, I think it just rings true even more so. Like now that I'm getting older and older I get, it's like it just rings true. Like just with what I see people say on social media and all of that. And like it's a common sentiment. If our town was plagued with mugging, it's never gonna happen. But if it was, most people here be like, well, I got a gun, I'll shoot the fucker.
Yeah.
And that's what it would be like. And the cops would be like, don't do that.
I mean, you could almost like do a reverse reading on this film, because really the themes that are resonant in this film are really on the surface. That, yeah, you probably shouldn't go out and kill people that you think are bad. But at the same time, you definitely need to fight back against them.
Yeah, but at the same time, they don't show Paul Kersey's and Charles Bronson is not remorseful about what he's done.
No, he's not.
He enjoys it.
Yeah, he definitely does. You can tell.
It's cathartic for him.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about, like, part of like the character development of his character in the film is that whole slow, as you said, slow second act where he goes off to Tucson to do his little architecture and the warm side of the door montage.
Yeah.
With his fucking Jimmy Dean knockoff buddy. That, by the way, that guy who he talks to out there, all I can think of is fucking Jimmy Dean and, excuse me, in Live or Let Die. Jimmy Dean, the Sausage King, was in not Live or Let Die. Diamonds Are Forever is just some loudmouth Southern guy that Bond has to save.
Oh, really?
And that's what he reminds me of, this guy in this film. But the whole point of that second act is so you can get transition Paul from, like, he moves away from the city, he's out in the wilderness of Tucson and working on the project, and just by meeting this guy who loves his guns and talks about how he loves his, he owns his guns and loves his guns, and because he has a gun, nobody gets mugged in Tucson because they'd fucking shoot them. And then he takes him to a gun club, and you get to learn more that he's Paul's a Korean War veteran, and he was what the character thinks is a commanding officer in a medical unit, but he's a conscientious objector. He didn't want to fight. But, that's why he was put into a medical platoon. But even though he didn't want to fight, because his mom was a pacifist, his dad was a hunter, so he learned to shoot from his dad. So he's got, fucking great aim. So it's trying to show to you that he's somebody who does, he is partially a pacifist by root, but he does have, like, an underlying don't fuck with me nature. And the fact that he's been fucked with, now he's willing to...
Yeah, drop the pacifist and...
But at the same time, it's like, oh, see, that's what, somebody who wouldn't ever do such a thing. It's trying to show you, like, though he does have, both sides of the coin, it's trying to show you, but he is, he does have that, nature of being a pacifist. He went to war, but he was he didn't fight because he was in the medical units, because he's a conscientious objector. So for him to take that step into vigilantism, like, what, he really had to have been pushed to the edge to...
Yeah, but I think, like you said, he is very gleeful about doing his work, and at the end of the film, he doesn't have any repercussions for doing it besides having to leave the city.
Yeah,
that's it.
Because they don't want to arrest him because he would become a martyr. If they arrest him for killing those people, and more people will take up being a vigilante.
Yeah,
that's why they don't want to, arrest him. They just want to scare him off.
I mean, I think that like I said, you could almost do a reverse reading of this film in that it's presenting like a sarcastic view of vigilantism in that it doesn't work out, except it does work out. So you can get all the way to the end, but then at the end it does work out. And he can go to Chicago now and do the same fucking thing and kill a bunch more, white young and black young kids and, get away with it again. And I think that...
And the city will be grateful for it.
Exactly. And as much as I disagree with that viewpoint, coming out of the 70s, coming out of an exploitation style of filmmaking... It totally makes sense for the time, and I am open to accepting that this was Death Wish in 1974. That this is a film that's in a bubble, really.
Well, no, I don't expect him at the end of the film to get caught.
No.
And if he does get caught, they're not gonna... Because again, the whole message of the film is basically, you need to fight. Fight against, and take up arms. So for them to be like at the end, he's caught, he's going to jail, and it kind of, it'd be a moot point. It'd be
I think that's probably why I associate more with blaxploitation though, as a liberal, probably super liberal person in 2017, is that I can associate more with blaxploitation because of the way that they deal with sensitive themes within that style of filmmaking. Obviously, while they share a lot of the same ideas and even styles, like in Death Wish, you can see a lot of blaxploitation in it as well, especially some of the more funkadelic soundtrack at times. They're coming from two opposing views, and I think that now we kind of, as liberals, associate more with the blaxploitation movement than the more white person exploitation movement of things like Death Wish.
Well, you just gotta think about it too. I mean, it's just this film. Yeah, like I said, he's a fucking white collar architect.
Yeah.
He's an architect that works for a big architect firm. You'll never see that in a blaxploitation film. They're always
No, I mean this would be the person that they would. It would be the villain. It would be like the person who's going to demolish their
neighborhood.
their neighborhood in order to put up a huge mall or something.
Yeah.
And then he killed one of Coffee's sisters so that he could do it. I mean, they're all exaggerated. They're all.
But at the same time, like especially in the 70s, there's no subtlety for the most part.
No,
it's very,
and that's
very cut and it's
Death
very
Wish doesn't have any subtlety. I'm glad you brought that up because it doesn't really have any subtlety. You can certainly, all of its themes are pretty surface level.
Well, yeah, like I said, like, and as you said too, is about the like everyone, like all the muggings in this. They're so stereotypical. It's great and it's cheesy and it's hilarious, but I still love it though. Just like every time somebody in this film gets jacked, they pull out a fucking switchblade and like jive motherfucking turkey. Give me your money.
I said
I know you. Give me your money, and it's not like they're trying to like subtly like sneak up behind him like and put like point the like the knife in their back like, hey, I got a knife on you. Give me all your money, or I'm gonna fucking stab you. Something like that. No, they're like 10 feet away, and they fucking bring out their switchblade. Like, you motherfucker, give me all your money.
Yeah, I said that at least they're polite enough to like pull out a shiv or something instead of a gun. Now it's just I got a fucking gun. Do you give it to me? I'm gonna shoot you. And at that point, what are you gonna do? When someone has a shiv at you, you can just run away. You can run away and just
you can try to outrun them. Like,
yeah.
I hope I'm faster than this kid.
Especially
this malnutrition kid whose only diet is nothing more than smack and
especially
and Lucky Charms.
In some of the scenarios where you're really not even that far from either civilization or like people, or maybe sometimes it's even in like the daylight where you can just run away and say like, oh, they've got a knife.
Well, it's New York City. Most people are like, oh yeah, you got a knife?
Whatever.
Life's got a knife to me too, asshole.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Huh?
Yeah. And like I said, I think that Death Wish is a pretty fun movie, despite some of the slower scenes. And I can accept it as a film of its time. Even though I may not agree with its ideals at this time. And I find it sad that 40 years later we're in the same boat. But so I thought it was fun. I think it's a fun movie. Like I said, I don't think it's not my favorite exploitation film. I would say that I probably like Dirty Harry more than this. But at the same time, I think it is a lot of fun. I'll be interested to see how Death Wish 2 and the rest of them play out.
Oh, I can't wait.
Because I do feel like this is a limited scope idea. So you can't... I mean, I can assume... What I would assume would happen is that you just go to a new city and do the same thing. But... And that's kind of what they make it seem like at the end of Death Wish, where he goes to Chicago and gives his little gun... finger sign.
Yeah, but I don't think they didn't plan on it.
Yeah, I don't think they did either. It doesn't really seem like they planned
because it took almost 10 years, if not 10 years, for them to come up with a sequel. So it's more that they just strike while the iron's hot. We haven't talked about the cast overall.
No, we haven't.
We've alluded to it a little bit. Charles Bronson, what'd you think of him?
I think he's good. I think that like I said when we were watching the film, I think he's an unlikely protagonist for this style of film. And maybe that's coming from a more present day view of like action heroes, in that now
but this is this is an action film.
No, yeah, it's a crime action film.
It's not an action film.
Yeah.
There's no explosion.
But now your protagonist better be hunky in a situation like this where he's the hero. And he better be good looking. And Charles Bronson, I don't really feel, even in this time period, that he was very good looking.
I feel like the first time you saw Once Upon a Time in the West with me, you said the same exact thing. Like man, Charles Bronson's one ugly motherfucker.
Yeah.
I feel like you're like Like going from Clint Eastwood to him, like how.
Yeah, exactly. This has nothing to say about his acting ability or anything like that, but I just feel like he's an unlikely protagonist for this film, except for the fact that this film does center around older white Americans. And so he fits that bill perfectly as an older white American, like you said, architect, sort of highfalutin person in New York City who is sick of like the world of New York City. So, I mean, I think that works, but it always just surprises me that Charles Bronson is kind of, I don't know, how he got those roles to begin with, besides, you would think of him as more of a villain. His look, his appearance.
That mustache
screams, yeah, I'm going to be a villain. I'm going to be like
twiddling
it.
Yeah, when you think about it, I mean, if Henry Fonda was as old, you'd think in Once Upon a Time in the West, if Henry Fonda was a little bit younger, it'd be Henry Fonda, the hero, and Charles Bronson with that mustache being the villain. But
but I think
I think he fits the role perfectly. Just because, just the way he looks and the way he acts. He's always been a wooden actor, but I think in the roles that he's given, it works to his benefit. But I don't think the way, like, the roles he's always been given, I think the way he looks doesn't, like, I wouldn't expect, and I wouldn't want somebody in a film called fucking Death Wish about a middle-aged man because again, his daughter's married. She's like over, 21.
Yeah.
So he's gonna be an older guy. So I don't have any problems with it being like an older person. That's probably why they have fucking Bruce Willis in the new one coming out, being Paul Kersey, because he's 60 years old, miserable old man.
Yeah. So
I'm not saying Charles Bronson was, but I think he fit. I mean, I think he fits the role perfectly. He's a normal-looking guy, but who's got muscles. Yeah, that's what stands him out. If you had to judge him by like today's kind of like looks department, and I think he's fine. I think he's really good in the movie. I think the only problem is just like you said. There's like just some parts where he just doesn't show any emotion.
Yeah, he doesn't have a very wide range of emotion.
No,
like It's kind of strange how easy he takes his wife's death, for the most part. He's a little bit distraught when, obviously, the doctor drops the bombshell in a very hurried manner.
But at the funeral, and then after that, to go to visit the cop, he's very nonchalant. Like, well, I was just at my wife's funeral in Connecticut. I was wondering if you had any information. You still think he'd be grieving? No,
because that's the same day. Yeah. You would think that coming back from his wife's funeral, he'd just be like emotionally done with the day. Yeah. I'm just gonna stay home, not go to the police. He's motivated, sure, but I don't buy.
But he doesn't come across really as motivated. No. He comes across more like, okay, I was told I was supposed to contact you on the 12th. Today's the 12th, so what's the information?
Yeah.
And then when the cops give him like the run around the rigmarole, he's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll try again tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I do think that's one of the biggest things, that he just doesn't have that emotional range or anything like that. Kind of takes everything in stride, and doesn't really always fit with the character. I think Vincent Gardenia is Frank Ochoa, the main detective who's on the case that's working
the
vigilante case. I think he's really good. I like the little tics that they included in there,
like his
sneezing and coughing, like allergy related illness. I think that's pretty cool.
Made me think of Bebop, the one detective in the Bebop movie that had like fucking hay fever throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, it's just something that makes him stand out as a regular normal detective, because obviously these films have the detective that's a dime a dozen, same type of guy doing the same exact type of thing, but at least here in Death Wish there's something that makes him distinguished, and I like that. I think he does a pretty good job.
Like I said, I agree, because at the same time, it's a very stereotypical role. Like, you're gonna be the lead detective on the case, so you're gonna probably be like an older white guy just sweating around, and be like, we need to figure out what's going on. And I think he keeps it interesting enough to, to be enjoyable. He's not boring at all. I think, like you said, he does have quite a few like physical tics that make him stand out from others.
Yeah. I think the rest of the cast
Is there.
is just there. There's really nothing that stands out.
Except.
Well, yeah, we will get to that. Well, do that in a second.
Okay.
But I wanted to say like Jack Toby, who plays Paul Kersey's son-in-law, or well, I shouldn't say plays. Jack Toby is the son-in-law. Stephen Keats plays him. I think that he gets rather annoying at times.
He's a very stereotypical, just like, oh, come on, what's, like, oh, gee, shucks. And a role that shouldn't be, oh, gee, shucks. And what annoys me the most about him, because he's Paul's son-in-law, the entire film, he's like, oh, come on, Dad, Mom, and it's like, you're his son-in-law. You don't fucking call him Dad. Yeah. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, it is a weird addition because it's not just a couple times, like he doesn't just
the entire film.
It's like every single scene is like, hey, Dad.
If I ever got married and like if if my father-in-law was like, you can call me Dad, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, you're not my dad.
Yeah.
I have a dad.
Yeah. It's a weird choice for that.
You'd be getting called by your Christian given name, right?
Weird script decision. I agree.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like something in porn.
Yeah.
Like oh, I'm fucking, my father-in-law, so, to make it incesty, but not quite incest, I'm gonna call him Daddy,
Yeah.
So you're like, ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
weird.
fucking awful. That annoys me, but, I mean, he's not, again, at the same time, he's not terrible, but he does nothing.
Yeah.
He's literally just there.
There's nothing there for him. It's the same thing with Kathleen Tolan, who plays Carol, who is, Paul's daughter, who is raped and eventually is carted off to the sanitarium. She really is the Barbara of this film, as we talked about before with Night of the Living Dead, wherein that she gets very little to do. She really just has to react in that first scene with the rape. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the time she's in a like catatonic state where she barely even needs to be there.
Do you think they just hired somebody like, hey, you agree to show your tits in this?
Yeah, pretty much. Show your tits and ass and we'll spray paint your ass and then that's it. That's all you need to do and we'll pay you pretty well for it. That's what I'm assuming they did.
And then like for a few other scenes, you just gotta show up and be like,
Yeah, I think that's probably what happened.
I mean, and that's not a knock against her because
there's nothing for her to do.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm sure the direction was stand there and look distant.
Now, do you think with that rape scene too, they kind of like they watched A Clockwork Orange?
Yeah, definitely,
absolutely, and they took notes.
Absolutely, it's not as effective as A Clockwork Orange in that A Clockwork Orange is very sadistic
and very brutal.
It's not as effective as that, but I don't think they were actually shooting for that level of detail either. I think they definitely watched it because, like you said, some of these scenes are very reminiscent. That may be because of 70s decor, but at the same time, it does look very similar.
Well, just the way they kind of like handle it, it's very all around.
Exactly.
It's not a knock on the film, but it is. And at the same time, I can't imagine like shooting a rape scene, like kind of like walking through, like, okay, this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah, but this is tame in comparison to some of the other 70s exploitations. So,
yeah, when you think about probably A Clockwork Orange is pretty tame compared to. I mean, I haven't really seen like some of the ones that you probably have seen, but I Clockwork Orange is usually like people like put up there like, oh, that's so brutal, and
and not well. I mean, I think that one is.
No, I agree, but
realism of the scene.
But what I'm saying is that it's compared to like actual real exploitation films, it's it'd come across as big nothing. Like,
now you can do the main attraction.
The main attraction of this film, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't noticed, and drumroll, Jeff Goldblum's here.
That's right.
Jeff Goldblum in his first ever major motion picture, as far as I know.
As far as I know, I would assume so because he does not like he gets like a huge billing on this.
He gets billed though.
Well, he does get billed, but
That's
it's
great.
not.
I think it is his first film. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff Goldblum's first role in a major motion picture, he plays freak number 1.
Yeah. At least he gets freak number 1 status.
And that's one of the gang rapers in the beginning.
Which you would say is probably the most important the criminals in the film.
He gets to live.
Right. He does, yeah. He gets to live. He gets to get away with it.
He gets to say the great witty lines of, because his one friend likes to spray paint random shit for no reason. They're like, "Oh, you're an artiste. You're an artiste," and the film doesn't specifically say it, but it's a key point that they're saying artistes of artists because they're implying because they're poorer people.
Yeah.
That, and these people are, bourgeois. That, like, the artiste,
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of them saying that. So when they're like, he's like spray painting and he's beating and raping Charles Bronson's daughter because they don't have any money to give them because they think that they live in a great rich apartment, they should have money to give them. When they don't, he said, he breaks out the great witty line of after they spray paint his daughter's ass with a spray paint can, and then he's gonna paint her with his paintbrush.
Yeah.
Drop down CSI Miami glasses and.
Yeah, it certainly is definitely a pointed reference to how the upper class live.
Yeah.
That they have paintings and things like that on their wall.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is important. So yeah, he's the regular Jeff Goldblum experience in here. He's very expressive in his movements.
Oh, very.
He doesn't really get
it was great
ton of lines.
And it was great too because I knew he was in here, and it was great just knowing like when you first saw like that's Jeff Goldblum, isn't it? Like that looks like Jeff Goldblum, like fucking Hannah Rat. I'm like,
it does because the biggest thing is that his hair and his very gaunt, face.
He looks like in this film what you'd expect some like a stereotypical maid coming to like clean your house.
Yeah.
Because he's so like just gone, the way he has his hair up and the bandana and everything. It's great.
Yeah.
It's like who knew this butterfly would go to be such, the charismatic man and actor that he is.
And notable here is that the director of Death Wish 1 through 3, Michael Winner, also did The Sentinel, which is a horror film, and Jeff Goldblum does show up very quickly in there as an extra as well. So Michael Winner noticed something in Jeff Goldblum.
He knew he's gonna do great things.
That's right.
It's just great that that's like not only that, Christopher Guest is in this film.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's his first act. You're gonna have to check it.
I don't know if it is. Yeah.
I don't know for certain if that's his first role. It very well could be his first role, and he's got a very bit part. He's just the patrolman that finds the Paul Kersey's gun.
No.
It's close though.
Yeah.
It's very close.
Yep. Because looks like he did start out with police roles though.
Yep. But he's literally just plays the patrolman that finds Paul Kersey's gun when Kersey's getting wheeled to the ambulance and shows it to the Vincent Gardenia's character to show that he found it, and that's it, and that's all he has.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even notice that he looks and sounds like nothing like it. You know what he reminds me? He reminds me of just like the random guy in Dawn of the Dead, the original Romero one. When like I think it's Ken Forey or someone else is like questioning like the young guy, like SWAT team members, like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Oh, my name's like Jackson, sir." And he's like, "You ever done shit like this?" And it's like, "No, I haven't, sir."
Yeah,
that's what he's literally like in this film. It's just,
basically,
just like, "Oh, I'm Patrolman Riley, sir. I found the gun. Yeah."
Yep.
So man, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. Because Christopher Guest is great. Have you seen his movies?
Mm-hmm.
They're fucking great.
Yeah,
amazing. Anything else you want to add? We got any extra thoughts, soundtrack wise, or?
No, I already mentioned that. Like, there's some funkadelic blaxploitation tracks in here, but
Really?
there's also more of a
jazzy and
jazzy
slightly...
like free, like a free jazz sort of thing going on too. So interesting.
It fits.
Yeah, it definitely fits.
It says Herbie Hancock did the music. I don't know if that means.
I don't know.
It said on the credits if it's Herbie Hancock.
That's hard to determine because I don't really feel like.
Yeah, I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if that means
Yeah, I mean the soundtrack is fairly free jazz, where like in the more upbeat sections and the tense and suspenseful ones, you're getting a lot of like drum hi-hat stuff going on. It works really well for this film. I think it's nice and like unexpected and kind of gritty. Yeah, I think it works just fine. I don't know if it's not really a standout aspect of the film itself, and there's certainly no like title song like most blaxploitation have.
No,
like Hammer or like Coffee. Nothing like that where you actually have a title song.
No.
Death Wish.
No, I do love the fact that Death Wish's title card just kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, I know, it's fantastic. I absolutely love it. Just the fact that Paul and his wife are on this lovely Hawaiian vacation, taking pictures, having mojitos and all that shit. And all of a sudden, it's the sunset. You can just see Death Wish, and then it goes back to
Yeah,
it's great. It's absolutely great. It's totally something else you wouldn't. I wish films would have the balls to do that today. Just
bam.
Yeah, just boom.
Some of them now don't even have title cards.
Oh,
just like skip right through.
Well, they're too good for that.
Yeah, they're too good for title cards. They don't need them anymore. You know what you're watching.
It's probably the new Captain America. They didn't have title.
It was with Doctor Strange. I don't think had title card.
Yeah, I think the Captain America
probably
Civil
not.
War
I think they
either.
skipped right through there.
Probably because at this point, this is all fucking part of it.
Yeah.
They might, but like I said, at the same time with those films, they might as well have a previously on Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Real quick because we're running long here. With.
I'm not gonna give the rating.
Yeah, I was gonna do it, but I also wanted to discuss the trailer real quick because we did watch the theatrical trailer on the DVD, and you could fucking watch the trailer and know the entire film.
They ruined the entire film.
Yeah, you see every single shooting scene with the criminals, and you basically see the death and rape of Paul Kersey's wife and daughter, and then you see the finale. You see everything. You don't need to even watch the film.
Well, that's what I love about it, because it's your stereotypical 70s trailers. Paul Kersey's a man on a mission, and show his wife getting beat up. His wife was beaten up. His daughter was raped. Now he's on vengeance, and then he's showing killing Paul Kersey and Charles Bronson in Death Wish. It's great. I absolutely love trailers like that. You know what you're getting.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, no, you're right. It does spoil the entire. It's I don't even need to see the film.
Yeah.
But
you see the entire film.
But it's compared to modern day trailers where they don't even show you shit that's even actually in the film. But no, I do miss that 70s style. Just yeah, we're gonna show everybody because the thinking is we're gonna show them the general plot. What they're expecting to get into, but at the same time they're revealing the entire film.
Yeah.
But I love it. I absolutely love it because it's just so different.
Yeah.
Especially compared to today, it's so different. So out of 10 .32 caliber slugs.
I was gonna go with that.
Were you really?
If I was leading, that's what I would go with.
So out of 10 .32 caliber slugs, what would you give Death Wish?
I'd probably give it a... Can I give it a half? Can I give it 7.5?
Yeah.
All right, I'll give it 7.5.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah.
A little disappointed.
It may be because I've seen other exploitation films that I prefer over this one. I don't know.
I'd give it 8.5.
8.5?
8.5. Not quite a 9. I love this film.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a soft spot for Charles Bronson. I do. Despite as wooden as of an actor as he is, I do enjoy him. I mean, for God's sakes, he's in the greatest Western of all time, if you ask me, Once Upon a Time in the West. And That's a fucking masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a great film too. I don't necessarily agree with all of its messaging, but I do understand where it's coming from, what it's trying to do. I think it does that successfully, and I love the fact that how you can kind of connect it even to today.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes it impactful. If you're looking for a film in this that's going to be like this isn't a bloody film.
No.
It's not a gory film. It doesn't even have that high of a kill count.
Nope.
It's tame compared to what you'd expect from a vigilante exploitation film from the
definitely.
70s.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a very enjoyable one because they're always on track with what they're trying to do. If you agree with it or not, they're always on track. There's a set course in motion. And I think because it just follows through on all of its points. I do agree with you that the second act does get a little long in the tooth just because it's all character. It's all nothing but character development. That do you necessarily need? No, but if you didn't have it, you'd have a fucking 45-minute telenovela. And I think it's very good. It's one of my favorite films of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna say it's in my top 10 or top 20, but it's definitely one of my favorite films of the 70s. And I think it captures perfectly just kind of like the tone of those films of the period.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my thoughts. I don't know if you have anything else that you want to add to that.
No, I think that's it. I think we covered it. So next week is Death Wish 2.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen Death Wish, please check it out.
Yeah.
It's you won't be disappointed. I can't say that about the rest of the films.
Well, we'll be checking out Death Wish 2 next time, so we will see what it's like. I'll see what it's like. Never seen it before.
And for a real treat.
That's right. Are you doing administrative stuff?
No, that's you.
You want me to do it? All right. Yeah, I'll take over.
That's all you.
Yeah, that's right. You can catch us on iTunes. Please subscribe to us on iTunes. Give us a nice review. We definitely appreciate that, and it helps us get noticed. You can also catch us on SoundCloud. That's where our episodes go up first. That's where our feed originates from. So we're on SoundCloud there, and you can follow us, like our tracks, things like that. We have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. Like us. We converse with us. We always appreciate anybody talking about our podcast episodes. We have a Twitter. It's at bloodandblackrumpod. I always do this. I do this every single episode. At bloodandblackrum. We don't use it super often, but I definitely do tag each one of our episodes. So please follow us on there and give us some retweets. We surely appreciate that. We have our own website. It's bloodandblackrumpodcast.wordpress.com. I post all of our new episodes up there. Also, we have an email account, bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate any kind words that you send our way, and anything that you want to see covered on the podcast, just let us know, and we will try to work that into our schedule. Lastly, we have a Patreon account. That is where you can donate to us each month. And you can help us fund the podcast and do some really fun stuff. Obviously, you can give as little as you want to or as much as you want to. If you pledge $1, we'll give you a shout out. If you pledge $5, we will actually do a group of episodes of your choice. You just name the films that you want us to do, either different films or in a series, and we'll do them for you. And then if you pledge $10 a month, we'll actually do a script reading of a film of your choice. So that'd be a lot of fun. We haven't done anything like that ever on the podcast, so it'd be our first time doing that. And we would definitely do some fun things with that. I think that's it for our administrative stuff. So thank you for listening to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. This has been episode 52, Death Wish, the start of our Death Wish series. We'll be back next week with Death Wish 2. And for me and for Martin, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.